Good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, the 6th day of Nisan, April 4th. And we're on page 97 in Chayenu as we continue in chapter 38 in Tanya. In today's lesson, devotion born from intellectually stimulated emotion is human-like. While one inspired by the instinctive love and awe of Hashem is animal-like. Oof, what does that mean? So if it's instinct, that's what animals do. They run based on instinct. But if it's a thought process, and you're doing it for a particular reason and focus, that's human-like. The Alter Rebbe now goes on to discuss two levels of kavanah. So if you have kavanah because that's what you do every day and you don't think too deeply into it and it just, it just comes naturally, that's one level. The higher level is when you put your mind to it and you have a intellectually stimulated thought process. The first level is that of a person. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up. The Alter Rebbe now goes on to discuss two levels of kavanah. The higher one of which is comparable to the soul of man, and the lower to the soul of animals. Oof, pretty harsh. First level is that of a person discerning enough to know Hashem, to know that there's God, and to think about His greatness. To create out of his understanding a fear of Hashem in his mind and a love of Hashem in his heart, the right side of his heart, which is the seed of his divine soul's emotion. So you think, wow, look what the Eibishter created. All this for me, to be able to do a mitzvah, family, my community, shul, everything's so beautiful and wonderful. New floors coming soon. Right? So we get to, and that's low level. Greater level is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Takes his time to think about every single detail of creation, whatever, all the things that we've talked about. So when we take a few moments to think about Hashem, we create a fear in our head. Wow, Hashem is waiting for me to do my mitzvah. Am I going to bring him nachas, or the opposite, God forbid? And then there's a love of Hashem, like a love for a parent. The Hashem, the dafka boy. And when we think about it, our neshama will thirst for Hashem and want to cleave to Hashem. How do we do that? By fulfilling Torah mitzvahs. Shem hamshachas v'aras oiren seif baruch hu al nafshi the dafka boy. The Torah and the mitzvahs are an extension of the eternal light of Hashem. And when we do them, we bring that light upon our soul, and that allows us to cleave to Hashem. Great. And with this intention, when a person has this in mind, that when I daven and when I learn, I am able to connect to Hashem, especially with this kavanah. So when again, ultimately, when he studies and he fulfills the mitzvahs with this kavanah, and he davens and recites blessings, he will be able to cleave to Hashem through doing the mitzvahs, learning the Torah with this in mind, that I'm going to get closer to Hashem, I'm going to bring godly light, and my soul will cleave to it. So harei kavanah zu al derech. Did I skip a line? Okay. Harei kavanah zu al derech Moshe k'may nishmas hamedaber shu bali seichel b'chira v'das yidaber. Such kavanah is analogous to the soul of a human being who possesses intellect and freedom of choice, and who speaks with wisdom. But such kavanah is likewise based on intellect and choice. Before you do a mitzvah, you think, if I do this, I'm connecting to the will of Hashem, I'm bringing nachas to Hashem, and that way my soul will connect to God. So it's a thought process, because we have brains, we have intellect, we have a little insight here. The second level of kavanah of a person whose understanding is limited, to know and to reflect on the greatness of Hashem. Okay, if you learn, the more you learn, and the more we've gone through Tanya to explain how we can connect to Hashem through our nefesh elikis, and that we're fulfilling the will of God, and we're fulfilling the thought process of God when we have kavanah behind it. And the more we do that, that's high level. And we know, at least we have the framework to know what to think during davening, when we're trying to have kavanah, during performing a mitzvah, before we give tzedakah, we stop and think. Okay, maybe now we're going to talk about the lower level. That we don't know what to think. By the way, the more we think deeply into it and we learn, we realize, oh, we're probably on the lower level anyway. Because what do we really know what to think, right? But anyway, Misha Daitik Sara Leda is finding Dosai Parahu. The Holy Dava be Mnosai, be Scalus Libai, the Chena Yida B'Meicha Pagad Hashem Libai. So a person might be limited to know and to reflect on the greatness of God. Limited in capacity and limited in time. So a person, what does he do? He creates out of his understanding a revealed love in his heart, and also on his mind and dread in his heart. So his level of understanding is inadequate to create a palpable spiritual emotion. And even sometimes you think you know what to think. You think you know what to think, and you're trying to think that during the Shemoneh Esrei. But it's hard. So what do? Since one's observance of the mitzvahs is contingent on love of Hashem, I don't want to just do it because somebody told me to do it. I want to do it out of love of God. And refraining from sin is contingent on fear of Hashem. How could one who cannot evoke these emotions because is limited, how could he fulfill the Torah mitzvahs? What motivates him? Why would he do it if it doesn't bring him to this love and fear? Person, every single yid calls and arouses the natural love hidden in his heart. We all have it. So I just saw a video yesterday of George Rohr went by the Rebbe years and years ago, and he says he makes a minyan of beginner service in Manhattan, and he says a lot of the Jews there have no background. And he said the Rebbe was smiling, and as soon as I said that, I saw the Rebbe's face drop a little and get serious. And the Rebbe says, the Jews there every Jew has a background. Every Jew is the child of Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov and Sarah and Rachel and Leah. We all have that, and I'm going to continue on my own words. We all have that love of Hashem as an inheritance from our forefathers. So even if we don't utilize it or exercise it or even know that it exists, it's still inside of us. And what we do is, while we're davening, we close our eyes and we say, Hashem, I don't know what to think, but I want to daven out of love and fear and awe, and I want to connect with you. And then suddenly you get a little emotional. You're like, where's that coming from? I don't know what I'm thinking here. I don't really know how to have kavanah. Oh, that comes from the hidden love that every single yid has. Steve, you connect to that? I think that's at least the level we can relate to. So maybe the holiest of the holy, the Kabbalists, the tzaddikim, they can start thinking about the greatness of God. Maybe some of us here do also. I'm speaking for myself, but when we just close our eyes during Shemoneh Esrei and we try, and the best part is just translate the words that we're saying, it arouses some kind of a love. Now, somebody who never saw this before, lahavdil, somebody, nishkin yid, and then he opens this up, he goes, what is this talking about over here? There's no love that's brought out from looking at these words, but we could try, we could do that. And we should do that. So that now he brings out this love that's in his heart. You okay? Keyboard. Opa. When a person starts to arouse this love, his will, that his will in his mind and in the recesses of his heart should approve and consent with complete willingness and perfect sincerity. When that happens, a person will say, God, I'm all yours. Whatever I have to do, I'm ready to surrender my life. In actual fact, not just in speech, to say and proclaim the unity of Hashem, rejecting any other belief. In order to attach himself, to attach to Hashem, his divine soul and its garments of thought and speech and action, and to unite with them in his unity. Is identical to the supernal will that is clothed in Torah and performance of mitzvahs as explained above. This natural love, this hidden love that every yid has, also comprises fear of Hashem, acceptance of his dominion, so as not to rebel against him, God forbid, through sin. When motivated by this kavanah, which is born of his innate love and fear of God, one turns away from evil. How does he do that? By observing the mitzvahs, studying and praying and reciting the blessings. And thinking of the words. When you translate the words, it makes a huge difference. You're able to have, you're able to conjure up kavanah, love and fear of Hashem. Which means when you're thinking of the meaning of the words without conscious love and fear of God in his heart and mind, which would lend emotional intensity to his prayer, lacking revealed love and fear, he prays only with the meaning of the words. When one fulfills the Torah in this manner, what happens? This level of kavanah is al derech Moshe k'mei nishmas hachai she'enei bal seichel u'bechira. It's like the soul of an animal which possesses neither intelligence nor freedom of choice. It just does whatever it does based on instinct. Even when we most animals, they just do what they're going to do. There's it's even if you train it for a while, you put it back into the wild, it runs right back to its habits. And you could argue dogs and cats or whatever, they're cute, but maybe that's also their natural instinct, right? It's natural for them to be cute, to cuddle up. What are you saying, Steve?
No, we had a seeing eye dog. We trained them; they were like perfect, right? On the seeing eye, they rejected from within a week. They lost all the things. We didn't care, so it just went away.
It went back to its natural instinct. Sometimes they were like, if you've seen these videos where somebody raised a lion cub or whatever. But I'm just saying. But then many years later, they reunite and they remember. So it's also what I'm saying is it's also natural. It's like because it was.
They were totally trained. You would not do certain things.
It's like the story of the Rambam. Remember that famous story?
Yeah.
The cat, exactly. Famous story of the Rambam is he was challenged in the emperor's palace. I can't remember all the details, but basically they said, you can train, different than when the Torah says you could train an animal and it could be completely different. And then a cat, and it was doing all these tricks, and he was like, wow, wonderful, amazing. And then he took out of his pocket, he took out a little box, and he opened up the box, and it was a mouse, and the mouse, he let it go on the floor. And the cat that was perfectly trained, that did everything right, went running after the mouse. It's like Steve was saying, he had a seeing eye dog that they adopted, and then it came home within a week, it forgot all of its training. Okay, so what does it do? Again, it's not, what was that? Keyboard's on the attack. What were we saying? We're not necessarily trying to say that it's a bad thing. We're just saying it's a low level, it's a lower level. It's our nefesh habahamis, the animal instinct, the love and fear. When we fear something, we love something. When we love something, it makes us feel good. When we fear something, we're afraid of something that's going to happen to us. So that's the lower level of kavanah. It's like a natural instinct that we have. I'm sorry. Hare kavana zu al derech Moshe k'may nishmas achai she'enei ba'al seichel b'chira. Chol midosav she'hein yirasei midvarim mazikim noisei. Va'avosei ladvarim hane'emanim etzlei. Hein rak tivim etzlei v'loi v'binosei v'daitoi. So the soul of an animal who possesses neither intellect nor freedom of choice, and whose emotions, its fear of harmful things, and its love of pleasant things are merely natural, not a product of intelligence or understanding. So to by way of example are the natural love and fear hidden in the heart of every Jew. They too are not a product of intellect or choice. They're an inheritance from our patriarchs and like a natural instinct in our soul, as mentioned above. So they just come automatically through the bloodline. To summarize, both the performance and kavanah of mitzvahs are divided into two categories. The two levels in performance, the body of the mitzvah, are analogous to two classes of body creatures, inanimate beings and plants. They are A, mitzvahs performed with action, and B, mitzvahs performed through thought or speech. And then we have the second thing, two levels of kavanah, the soul of the mitzvah, corresponding to two classes of soul creatures, animals and men. They are A, kavanah generated by one's intellectual contemplation of godliness, that's harder to attain, and B, kavanah arising from one's natural love and fear of Hashem. The takeaway is, and that's natural, that's automatic, that happens as it's passed on from all the way back to Avraham Avinu. The takeaway is you might not be able to arouse a heart-stirring love for Hashem by performing, before performing a commandment. But we could still recall and reveal that hidden love that you have towards Hashem. All we have to do is recall that your core is a divine spark that constantly and eternally desires nothing from Hashem. So that's how we wake up that hidden love, that hidden fear. We just have to remember, hey, what's the foundation? What's the core? How often do we think about the foundational pillars under the house? But sometimes you think about, wow, if not for those pillars, the whole house would fall down. You think, I don't even have those. Yeah, you do. You just don't know about it because they're in the crawl space or in the basement or whatever. They hold the whole house up. So once in a while, you think about that. I'm not saying you have to think about the pillars of the house. But if you think about the core of who you are, what the essence of you is, does that make sense? What the essence of you is. Hey, what the essence of you is. Then you'll realize it's a part of Hashem, and that will bring you to loving and fearing Hashem. And you should try to do that before you perform a mitzvah and before you greet the Shabbos Kodesh, which is tonight. Everyone have a wonderful Shabbos. Come a little early so we can say L'chaim, and we can celebrate the coming Shabbos with love and fear of Hashem.